Kay, and welcome back to the ADHD biography. I'm your host, John Clarkson, and on this episode, we're talking about the career from recruitment all the way to entering the boardroom. Yeah, on today's episode, we're talking to former The Apprentice contestant, Ellie Kay. Ellie talks to us about how she found out late that she had ADHD, how it appeared in her career, what the experience of being on a TV show was like, especially for someone with ADHD, and also about her new venture with the key to ADHD. Don't forget to subscribe, like, follow these episodes to bring more real conversations about ADHD coming your way. With your obviously with your ADHD, when was it first on your radar that you had ADHD?
Yeah, probably it wasn't on my radar that I had ADHD. Probably when I worked with a lad for like 7 years doing recruitment, I'd forget stuff and I'd muck up and booking flights on the wrong day and all these things. I never really knew about ADHD because in my generation, it just wasn't a thing. I was born in the late 70s. No, not even boys were ADHD really. When I was younger, my sister probably had a morph coming up through that might have been boys, but it was never a thing for girls. So it never was on my radar at all until probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I'd even heard that there's a possibility that girls could be ADHD, really. And it is weird because in 25 years of recruitment, I didn't have any candidates that said I'm ADHD or autistic or anything like that, and no clients who even mentioned it as like a thing, as in interviewing, or we encouraged neurodiversity. Nothing. Also, I think it's really escalated in these last few years.
What do you think the biggest kind of catalyst for that is? Because I know even when I was growing up in the 90s, that again the awareness just wasn't there. What do you think has changed kind of in the last few years?
Well, obviously social media. So I suppose if the odd female started getting diagnosed and then vocally spoke about it, Leanne Maskell, who's my coach, there's Ella Middleton, there's a few, and then you start thinking, actually, this sounds relatable, and then you read up on it, and then more and more people come through the ranks, I suppose. We've always had it, obviously. I'm from a fully neurodivergent family. My mum's probably ADHD. My dad's absolutely ADHD. But growing up, that seemed normal to me because that's all I ever knew. Getting locked out of the house often was just normal. but yeah, I think that's the problem that the press have, because it seems like everybody's getting diagnosed, but it's just because there's a label on something that we're now all realizing. People who've had issues that they've struggled to deal with are now seeing a reason why. It's not an excuse, but it's a reason why we do things like book flights on the wrong date, take the wrong passport to the airport, forget stuff all the time, book diary, there's lots of things. Probably for me, going through the menopause as well made it even worse, because that's crap for a woman anyway. So having ADHD is like tenfold. But yeah, I probably first realised when I read Leanne's book on holiday, the A to Z of ADHD, and it was literally just everything was relevant to me in my life, and I thought, well, this just makes so much sense.
And what were the biggest things that stood out in that book that resonated with you?
Impulsivity is massive, and risk taking. Also, just memory, just forgetting where I've put stuff all the time, and feeling like I have had attention to detail and really concentrated, but I haven't, obviously. Even last week, I went to Wales and, I got locked out of the house at the holiday home. It was a total disaster to drive like hours to pick up a spare key when it quite clearly said in the instructions to put it back in the key boxes, like in case of emergencies. And then booking to go up Snowdon and booking it on the wrong bloody month. So it's an ongoing brilliant parts of it, that make you do things like set up a business and take risks and have fun, do things that most other women of my age probably wouldn't do, like jumping off diving boards and scooting and stuff like that. But then there's all the hard parts of it where you're literally beating yourself up for doing something like that, getting locked out of a house again or forgetting something with a school run, it can be like a daily battle.
And what are so obviously you've talked about your biggest challenges there. What do you find is the most useful thing for you? Are you on medication for your ADHD or?
I am, but I didn't have it last week when I went to Wales because I feel like it does help me concentrate and everything. It doesn't change my personality. I'm on it now, probably running out about now. But yeah, I just felt like it allows me to concentrate more on, and I don't make as many mistakes. But I do come off it now and again, basically because I can't mix alcohol with it. So when I'm on holiday and I don't have to concentrate, or I didn't think I did as fully, then that's like I'm not bothered about taking it. It works like a paracetamol. It works for that day, and then you wake up fully ADHD again the next morning. But yes, it has really helped me, definitely.
And obviously, you've used to work in recruitment for a number of years, really successful in that industry as well. In such a sort of high paced, fast environment, how did your ADHD impact you in your day to day?
Well, I mean, I think I'm driven by a motor basically. So when I did trades and labour recruitment at the start, that so suited me. It was brilliant. And I think my first employer really cottoned on to this is somebody who, like is not afraid to go and knock on door, walk on a building site with hard hat and boots and literally cold call, without an appointment. And, when I got challenged, I actually found it quite fun to kind of the challenge of going back and trying to get that grumpy site manager on side or whatever, which I did. Literally relentlessly picking up a phone and just literally selling and, and then using sort of innovative means that other people probably wouldn't do, like going into a site cabin and there were no phones then. It's quite how old it is, and just quickly photocopying the site list while they were out on site, or the subby list, so that I had a load of leads and things. So I really thrived doing trades and labour, and that was the first business that I had. Really enjoyed it. And then I had a subcontract cleaning business, which worked in the building industry as well. So I was doing massive final builders cleaning. Again, the first time we did one of those, I had literally no idea how to do it. We just like won it, and we're like, what do we do now? And everybody who was a labourer was now a cleaner. And then we had to work out what equipment to use. But I thrive on that challenge, that sort of everybody to the deck, we have to do it. Sort of panic mode suits me well. And then when I did permanent recruitment, it is more boring, really, to be fair. It's better money and it's easier in terms of it's not as crazy and people letting you down all the time. But it was just work-life balance, really. When I got my daughter, it was easier to sort of do permanent recruitment, really, I suppose. But it is just a bit too long-winded for it. I just got bored of it in the end, I think.
Yeah. Did it get a bit monotonous with that?
Well, it did. I think what happened was, because I did it for a long time, I did Rec to Rec, so recruiting recruiters for 10 years.
Mm.
And I enjoyed meeting the candidates, so headhunting them, then meeting them. And I got a bit of something out of going to meet somebody. And then I had like clients that I was friends with, really, and I really enjoyed that. But I think it turns out that really I like the company more than the actual role, the actual putting everybody in a list. And I can't just spam people, so I had to do personalized headhunts. And I'd make mistakes. I'd make spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes and name mistakes, and occasionally, not all the time, but
Yeah.
It didn't suit my attention to detail, rather than doing trades and labour, which is just picking up a phone and selling, and it's all based on personality. So I think I enjoyed it because I was meeting people, I was meeting clients, I was meeting candidates, and I was working with people in the office. When I found myself working on my own again, which has happened twice in my life, I was bored stiff, like literally bored stiff. I hated it. I procrastinated, and I just was down, I suppose. I got through it the first time, but then the second time, I just, I'm 48 now. I just thought I need to change things up and do something else.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's been a common theme with the guests that I've spoken to on the show about that social interaction and needing that social interaction.
Yeah,
But also at the same time, if you're in kind of too big of a social setting, sometimes that can
yeah,
be a negative and wear
mm,
you out a bit. And the same in terms of what you're talking about there as well, working on your own. So we had one guest share about body doubling and
mm,
working with somebody, even if they're not necessarily working on the same thing as you, but just
yeah.
being in the same room as somebody, just to kind of help that procrastination. Is that something that you ever did or found useful at the time when you was
I
in that
tried
role?
doing it. I think the first time, yeah, because I've worked in shared office space, but I think because I had a team in that shared office space to go
Mm,
back in as my own, on my own, and also I'm just at the stage of life where my dog's getting a bit older, my daughter's taking her to school and things. It is just going into a city centre and doing that with not a team of my own.
mm,
But I would absolutely recommend it to anybody who is bored working on their own at home, because I think shared office spaces are brilliant. And even just getting, like your friend around or meeting at a hotel for a few hours just to get out of the house really and do it, because I'm definitely not a work from home person. In this new role, I love it because I'm speaking to people and I'm coaching. And if I go and do a talk in an office and stuff, I'm getting out. But if it was doing recruitment and just doing that search and selection piece, that would just mind-numbingly boring, to be honest. It was great when I was younger because the competitiveness of being, say, I worked for BBT, which was like Randstad. It got taken over by them, and it was all ring the bell when you get a sale, and
oh
a
yeah.
certain amount. It was very KPI heavy, but work hard, play hard, and it was absolutely fantastic for me in my 20s. Just making loads of money and going out spending it partying really. But I'm older now, and I'm just not into that kind of thing anymore.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I completely get that as well. With sort of when I was a bit younger and chasing the money a little bit more, I suppose, and
Yeah.
it
It gives
made me
you a
feel it.
buzz. Definitely gives you a buzz, and that's what
Yeah,
you want. That's why ADHD is. I think there's a lot of them in recruitment and sales because we thrive on competition. We thrive. We're looking for that dopamine all the time. So
yeah, and whenever you get a deal, it just tingles, it's like tingles a little bit, doesn't
yeah,
it? It gives you something every
brilliant. I
time.
don't know what it's like in sales, but in recruitment, the problem is you get the deal and then something happens and it falls through a lot
Mm.
because the person changes their mind or some personal circumstances or they get counter offered. That's a massive thing because when you're selling people, if you like you sell it's a service like sales, but people can change, can't they? And I think in the last 5 years, there's been so many more people getting counter offered just because companies it's easy for them to keep someone, then pay another recruitment fee and try and interview someone again. They'd rather just stick another 5, 10 grand and keep that person really, which was good for the person, but not good for me.
Yeah, and I can imagine that was a big sense of frustration when that happened.
Very much so, yeah. But I never got angry with the person because they have
Mm.
to do what's right for them. And I think it's sometimes the partner at home that feels, especially after COVID and things, it's easier to stay where you know what you know and everything like that rather than move. If it were me, I'd have to move. I've moved for less pay several times before I started up on my own because I could see the bigger picture and I just was bored of wherever I was working, I guess.
Yeah, and that's a common theme as well. I know with certainly I've done the same as well. I don't think I've stuck in a not necessarily company, but certainly a role sort of
Mm.
2 years.
Mm.
If there's not something new,
Yeah,
I need to move on or move up,
yeah,
either or. And I think that is that craving for something new, something fresh,
yeah.
constantly. Otherwise, it just gets boring.
Yeah, that's it. And I have in recruitment, I pivoted a few times into different things, doing a rec to rec, then doing construction, and different areas of construction and things. But I suppose it's the biggest pivot 'cause it's the first time I've left recruitment in 25 years. But I'm not saying I won't go back to it ever, but it's nice to have a break, let's say, of those old counter offers, etc.
Yeah, you certainly made a big pivot, obviously, going into your new role now. Can you
Yeah.
just talk a little bit about that and what that involves?
Yeah, so because I got diagnosed ADHD at 45, I paid to go private because I just wanted to know, and it was a
Mm.
massive relief to get that diagnosis. It just felt it just felt like everything made sense, like I say. So then I became a bit obsessed with it. So I was listening to all these podcasts. I kept ordering books from Amazon, just getting through them every night. And then again, an impulsive decision, but I saw that Leanne, who had read a book, was doing a training course the next day. And of course, I just thought, well, for probably about half an hour, and then I just text my husband saying, I'm going to go on this course because I just feel I need to change it up. And he's very sensible, he's the opposite to me, but he agreed that I needed it because I was literally moaning every night when he came home from work about how boring I was finding recruitment and how annoying it was. So yeah, I signed up to go on her course, which started, I think, at the end of November, December time. And that was to be an ADHD coach. So that's like a specific ADHD, and it was brilliant training and everything, and gave me a big understanding of it. And now I am training, I'm trying to get an ICF accreditation. I'm not trying to get, I will get an ICF accreditation. So that's a bit of a longer process, and sort of quite a widely recognised coaching accolade. So yeah, and then I'm doing this. I've gone all out because I hadn't done any training since uni, so I'm totally self-taught. I've not actually been. I think I was on one training course at BBT when I was maybe like 25, 23 or something. That's it. I've never had any training, so I just have splashed out on a few different training bits and bats so that I can build like a business that encompasses coaching, one-to-one group coaching for ADHD individuals, mainly women, because I think I get them. And then sort of for businesses, I'm wanting to go in, well, I'm going to workplaces doing the training and then doing workshops now as well. But I'm wanting to go in and do this mediation thing. Well, be a mediator. So I've got a course booked in to do that, which will mean that I just think that a lot of companies find themselves in a sticky situation with particularly neurodivergent people where it, you know, it escalates the problems with that comes with maybe having ADHD, and then it gets to performance management reviews, and then there's potential legal battles when all it could take is just a bit of mediation between the two, as in like a couple who are getting divorced, you know, and just sort of say, what do you want, what do you, and just try and talk between the two. And I think I'm good at that because I've worked in the business world, so I understand what it's like to be a boss and the office politics that come with it.
Yeah.
I manage people, but I'm also ADHD, so I totally get how that person's mind ticks and how something that's so easy for a neurotypical person is very hard at times for that person, and how with just a bit of tweaking and reasonable adjustments, they can make it much better all around.
Yeah, and I think it's really important as well, and certainly the work that you're doing. I know from my personal experience, people that I've spoken to about that workplace adjustments, especially being neurodiverse, and what that can look like. And I don't know about yourself, but quite surprised when I hear some almost horror stories about bosses that won't, or businesses that won't implement those what seem like small changes, but almost seems a sort of unwillingness or stubbornness to want to implement those, like they're giving something up.
Yeah, I think it's just because it's a hidden disability, and if you don't understand it, some people just don't and just never going to change their mind. But what I'm trying to say is, look, where we've got this 30% difference in our executive functioning. So an easy admin task to somebody else that seems so easy is so hard to me. So by doing something, or, you know, swapping up that task or body doubling or something like that, I can do that task, or let me do the bits that I'm really good at and give that task to somebody who's really good at that. You know, there's lots of different adjustments, you know, standing desks and, you know, talking a walking meeting, you know, rather than just sat there for like a couple of hours, like with real struggle for someone like, I mean, I'm moving all the time now, you know, so it's a struggle to concentrate. And you can get so much out of somebody who's neurodivergent. They've got, you know, lots of creativity, think outside the box, you know, they're impulsive, they work really well in a crisis, but there's certain things they just can't do, and it, you know, not just ADHD, but someone who's autistic might struggle with noise levels, or, you know, there's a lot of bright, I mean, I get migraines, you know, I do get migraines sometimes. I didn't realize that was an ADHD thing, but it is. But big bright overhead lighting does not work well with me, you know. So if you've got the luxury of an office that's big, make different rooms. It's not going to cost a lot, to sort of change it up a bit and just be mindful that these people have a disability too, but a different kind of one, really, that makes them struggle with certain things that seem so easy to people.
Yeah. And for any leaders that are watching this, obviously we don't want to give away all of your tips on the show, but what would you say is a good starting point if they're wanting to kind of build a better team, bring their team together that may have some different neurodiversity individuals in their team? How would they start about supporting them and still getting that team performance?
I think it's just educating, really, learning, really. That's where I come in with the management training for some managers who just can't see, they just can't understand that there's somebody in the team that is neurodivergent and why they can't do things the same way as everybody else. It's training them to understand the brain. And me as an example of someone that, have been fairly successful in life despite having ADHD, and it's been to my benefit. But if it was working for someone who was very, like strict and structured, and they had no room for any flexibility, then it wouldn't have worked. You know what I mean? I don't need to work from home, but some people prefer to do that or work from a quiet space. But I think it's being kind and empathetic and wanting to learn, and just trying to be more trusting. And I think that's where the workshops come in. The more I can do those and get in and tell people about what it's like to be ADHD or autistic, and to try and get them just to put themselves in their shoes, rather than just be stubborn and thinking, nah, I don't think it's a thing, or it's not that bad, or they just need to try harder, or just being lazy, or how can they not be on time, why they took on too much work. There's lots of things, but it's just educating and understanding, and trying to put yourself in their shoes is the big thing. And if you are a leader that is neurodivergent yourself, try and set an example. That's massive. If you use a fidget in a meeting room or something like that, to make those people feel better about their need to do the same.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think you hear a lot of businesses talk about inclusion and how they're an inclusive employer, but putting that into action, obviously inclusion isn't just about ethnicity and race; it's also about the neurological side of it as well for those who are neurodiverse. So it would definitely, and I think the work you're doing and will be doing is definitely going to impact and shape people's careers in a positive manner, and
Yeah,
help the workplace to be more inclusive.
I hope so, because I did like recruitment in terms of getting people good jobs and things like that. But I'm really like into this. It's a massive passion. I understand it because I am that person, and I can see it from the employer's point of view. That, I mean, going years back, I would have been like, oh, somebody's ADHD is coming to work for me, or what will that mean, to my team, my clients, and things. But we're in a different world now. It's great, we're understanding people. It's just having that level of understanding about people's differences, really. And it's going to be the forward-thinking companies who embrace that are going to do better, because having a diverse workforce, is just better all around for everybody. It's got more ideas, the output's better. And if you are accepting of difference, then people are going to want to work harder for you. Do you know what I mean? I've always rated myself as a boss, if you say so myself, because I've been empathetic to people. I've spoke to them about what's going on in their personal life, because that's impacts on work. And I think sometimes ADHDers' personal lives can be a little bit chaotic, but if you're an open boss and are not dismissive of that, and like talk to them about it and help them, then you're going to get better out of them. They're going to want to work harder for you and do better. Simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely, and not shying away from what some people may perceive to be a problem, but addressing it sort of head on, having those open and honest conversations, certainly will go a long way.
Definitely, definitely.
Now, there's one thing that I feel like we need to talk about, which is your experience on the Apprentice. So, as someone with ADHD, I imagine that's obviously the kind of fast-paced, high-pressure environment in the boardroom. How did you with your ADHD? How was that experience for you?
I was just buzzing, if I'm honest. Like the whole thing, I was buzzing. So I think when I applied for it, I just did it completely on impulse again. So me and my ex-husband were probably not going through the best time. He went to play cricket all day, and during that time, I saw an advert come on for the Apprentice and just applied there and then. No sort of rhyme, no checking it over or getting anyone to read the application. I just literally did the application within, I don't know, 15 minutes and press send. And then he came back. I was like, I've applied to go on the Apprentice. He was like, you're going to get on. I'm like, I'm not going to get on out of 70,000 people. Anyway, it did, obviously. But yeah, I think I was just buzzing. That's it. I think that's the only way. I was buzzing. And then I was like, right, it's like a really good holiday, but now it's time to go home. Like, I've had enough now a little bit. So I think, going down there, going into the boardroom, it was because I'd watched it every year. And
Yeah,
um, because it was, I think the year before me was the first one where it was setting up your own business. I mean, I just thought of anything. I didn't, I wasn't really bothered about setting up the business. I just wanted to go on the Apprentice, I'll be honest. It was just a challenge, really, I suppose. I think it was a plant hire company that I was on about in construction. But yeah, it was, yeah, the challenge is obviously it's massively edited. The RSD, the old ADHD RSD, the rejection
mm,
sensitive dysphoria was not good afterwards, let's say, because it was all over Twitter, people commenting on you all the time. And I think and then the papers and stuff, but you home in on the bad ones.
yeah,
And then you ignore all the good ones. But yeah, I think they stereotype me as being sort of this tough northern bird who works in construction, who says it as it is, kind of thing. Which I do, I do say it as it is, but I'm not willing to sell my grandma for a quid, which is what some of them were like. And I just got on really well with all of them, bar one, I think. And I was probably too buzzing and not serious enough, if I'm honest. I just was enjoying it really, and I didn't argue enough. Apart from if I think something's unfair, so there was one boardroom, I think it was the fourth episode, where I did really argue because I felt like what was being said was just not right, and I just won't ever deal with that kind of thing. So, but no, it was exciting, it was fun, and the aftermath was fun as well. My mum wasn't happy because I was the only person who swore, I think, because I said Billy Bullshitter about somebody, the one that I didn't like much, but I'm all right with that. But yeah, it was crazy, like people coming up to you and stuff, and yeah, it was fun. I wouldn't want to be famous like all the time. I think it would be exhausting if I'm honest, but can't do anything silly to get papped all the time. But it was fun for a period, let's say. And the awful photos of me that live on the internet forever, where they just basically airbrushed me to look like prisoner cell block H, like some kind of prison
oh
warder.
god.
Absolutely horrendous. I'll never go blonde again. But it was, yeah, it was a fun experience, definitely fun. But I was ready to go home when I did.
So it sounds like there's a lot of highs on the show.
Mm.
After experience like that and coming out of that, did you experience like a period of burnout at all afterwards?
No, I know that the other ones who got further in it, because I got fired in episode 5. Like I said, I did, well, I didn't say it to you, but I did say to him, you can take me back in if you want. And I regret that now, but I was kind of like, God, it was, like really argumentative all the time. I
Yeah.
think the other ones, a couple of my mates got to like second and third, and they were literally exhausted by the end of it. They were so burnt out, yeah. I wasn't, so I wanted it for long enough for 5 weeks. Like I said, it was just like a really fun experience for me. And working in construction at the time, they absolutely loved it. All the guys in construction, they were proper buzzing. It did well, really, for my business. And it was fun.
Amazing. I'm sure. Are you planning to go back into the boardroom anytime soon?
Probably not. I watched it the year after mine, and I did like a Recruit magazine article on it, like every week. I couldn't watch it after that because when it's edited, I won't spoil it for everybody, but I mean, I will say one thing. When I got fired, I said, "Oh, thanks, I've had a really fun time," and they totally took that out and they just put okay. So, you know,
Um,
it's stuff like that, the unjustness of that. I'm like, God, I said I had a really good time, and thank, you know, I was all like skipping out, you know, like too much so really. And they didn't like that, obviously. So they just had me saying okay, and that really annoyed me. But so yeah, it's hard to watch when you know how the edits are really, I suppose. But you know, it was a really fun experience. I think. Don't know if I'd recommend it or not. Really, I'd probably do it over again, even despite the little bit of backlash.
yeah, no, it sounds like an amazing experience.
Well,
Either way,
I'm thinking about going on it yourself.
not anytime soon, no. My probably RSD is a bit too much
Yeah.
for that kind of
It's
environment.
that, it's that really. I think someone said my face was like a thumb. I think that was the worst one. Or a man with a wig. There were literally probably only about 4 or 5 bad comments, but you really, really
Stick with you, don't
take
they?
them. Take them. It was hard. It's hard that, but yeah, it was a good experience. But not sure I'd recommend it.
Coming from you from the future, obviously now moving into being an ADHD coach, what can we expect to see from you in the future? Is there any sort of books on the horizon like Leanne's or?
Yeah, I am writing a book as well, and it's kind of about my life as how ADHD has shown up in my life, using it as an example, I suppose, really, because I have had quite a lot of different life experiences. Um, and yeah, I think just I post on LinkedIn about stuff that I've done wrong, but also, you know, like tips and tricks. And I think it's doing a mix really. I like variety, so I really like the coaching, especially these women, because I think the validation that they get through the coaching is great. You know, I think it's understanding, you know, meeting other people that understand who you are, and decisions you've made or the problems you have is massive, and I get a lot of you know, a lot out of that. But I think also there's a massive need to go into the workplaces and really change things up a bit and get people to see it from a different perspective, and, you know, don't lose out on these neurodivergent people just because you're not educated in that particular area and you don't understand how they tick and what they need to work effectively. Because if you get one on side, they will be loyal to you, you know, they will want to stay with
Mm.
you. So that's just a massive sort of aim or a mission that I'm on to do, John. That's another big one. So
Yeah,
lots of things.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what the future holds and how you help people within the workplace. Any leaders and businesses looking to reach out to you to obviously discuss that more, make their workplace more inclusive and neurodiverse people, where would be the best place for them to contact you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, obviously being a recruit background of I'm quite heavy on there, but my website is The Key to ADHD, although I did buy another domain last night called The Key to Neurodiversity. So I think at like 11 o'clock last night, I thought I better buy this domain. Someone else might buy it and
Those impulsive buys.
yeah, exactly. So I think yeah, I think that's it. I think they want to know a bit more about everything. I've got a good understanding about autism as well, and there's quite a lot of people that are ADHD now as well. So I think with the workplace, yeah, it's just reaching out to me. I'm on LinkedIn, so yeah, just get in touch and we'll see what we can set up a call.
Brilliant. And I'm sure there'll definitely be people reaching out to you after this episode, Ellie. It's been a pleasure talking about all your experiences, getting your insights, hearing from how you've gone to being a recruiter, from the boardroom, and now an ADHD coach. There's just so many experiences there that I think will really help businesses that you work with going forward. So, really looking forward to see how that pans out, and also reading your book as well when that comes
Oh
out.
God, and then finally get that sorted. Yeah, and well done for setting us up as well, John. It's really good. I've listened to quite a few of your episodes and going good, considering you only thought of it and got on with it. But that's typical ADHD, isn't it, for you?
Yeah, exactly. It's that hyper focus, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, you just have like you say, have an idea and just go with it.
yeah, yeah. Very good. Well, good luck to you and keep in touch.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, I'm sure we'll speak again soon.